Hello, and welcome to CLEA'S World. I'm Clea, and today I would like to share with you more information I've received from the 25th dimension during my last BQH hypnosis session. I'll be reading from a transcript, and when I refer to Lorrayne, I'm speaking of the practitioner who's asking me questions I've prepared in advance of the session. And when I refer to me, I'm speaking of myself under hypnosis, which means that the answers are coming from the 25th dimension. And as always, before I jump in, I want to thank you for subscribing, liking, and commenting. Thank you so much. It really makes a difference, believe it or not. So, and besides that, I love reading all your comments. And I love it when you actually have questions for the 25th as well, because those are always welcome and it helps us explore more what's going on together. All right, so I'm going to start reading here. Lorrayne. There are some gurus or spiritual guides who have had an awakening and been able to hold on to a state of bliss, like compassion for all, acknowledgement that we are all one, non-judgment, etc., and being able to change the vibration of humans coming into contact with them. CLEA'S had similar intense experiences of enlightenment, just like many others, but they didn't last. CLEA, for example, speaks with you, and while her consciousness is high, she's still judging and acting like most humans. Why is this? Why are some people able to hold on to this conscious awareness where others can't? Me. In regard to enlightenment, what is enlightenment? If you go by the scale of this muscle testing guru, Hawkins, then enlightenment means 600, or maybe on the scale is 1000, but I mean, we don't even reach it. So this is what we discussed, Hawkins and his scale of consciousness. We discussed in the last video, so please refer to that if you haven't watched it, because that will explain what they're referring to, and you'll have some details of how this works and what they had to say about it. So when CLEA says some in the past have reached enlightenment, what does that mean? By whose scale? Really, when we talk about people who have reached enlightenment on this planet, what are we referring to when we speak of this? We are referring to very 3D ways of thinking about it. They've reached a level of consciousness that seems so far removed from us. And how do we judge that? Because in appearance, and it might be true behind the scenes as well, but in general, in appearance, this is how we can judge, right? We look at things. We don't feel into things, but we look at things, and in appearance, it looks like these people have a behavior that is completely different from the vast majority of humans. Therefore, we call them enlightened. Now, they might very well be, for example, at peace. They might very well be compassionate. They might very well realize that we are all one, that we are source, and all of the above. And they might even be able to hold on to that vibration, which is absolutely wonderful. However, the question here is, the premise of the question is that somehow these people are special because they were able to maintain these vibrational levels. They were somehow able to rise above the low vibrational energy we have on this planet. Whereas people like CLEA and other people who she considers to be just normal people are not as elevated, and they were laughing here, are not as enlightened, even though we've had moments of what we consider enlightenment, meaning that we have reached a level of frequency that we could recognize, or we told ourselves, wow, I've never been there before. Wow. Like, for example, when CLEA's had her plant medicine experiences. But even oftentimes, she speaks with us, she realizes that she's actually speaking from, or we're speaking through, or she's reaching her, she's her higher self, basically. This is a premise based on, again, information that comes from within the matrix, the way that we like to think about things here, which is hierarchical. But we've explained to you before, what are we doing? Why do we have the reality that we have? Who's maintaining this reality? Who's even created this reality? Who wants this reality to look this way? Does it happen because this reality is outside of us and we can't help it because we are little victims of it and we have no power? What have we been telling you the entire time? That you, as ascended masters, have created, have wanted, have supported this reality. So just because you don't have a state of compassion all the time and you are judging, what have we said about judgment? Judgment is necessary to maintain this reality. Not only, once again, we think of these people who live in this vibration of only compassion or peace or whatever that might be, that they're better than us. But what have we said about we are who source is? We are source. Source is everything. Even source is not always what we believe. The vibration of compassion all the time, the vibration of love all the time. And we know that many will consider it blasphemous that we're saying this. But if source, which is us, if we have created all of this, we have had to use, we said this many times before, we've had to use low vibrational energy, which means we are capable. This is available to us. This is how we create. It's like notes on a scale, on a musical scale. You cannot create a symphony with one or two notes. You can't. It's impossible. When we think about it that way, it clicks immediately. But somehow, when it comes to vibrational levels, different frequencies, actual frequencies that we use to create, that we deal with, we believe only one or two are acceptable. And so again, we believe these people have higher consciousness than us because they are in the state. First of all, we don't know if they are in the state all the time, and they were laughing here. We don't. If you're judging from a 3D perspective, you don't. These are all stories. How do you know what the reality is? Again, we know. We always know everything that's going on. But again, we're going off of stories. We're going off of how these people maybe make us feel because they're always so copacetic. They were laughing. What does that mean? For all you know, this access is interested in testing that energy, in testing the vibration. Of course, they have their own path. Of course, they have their own purpose, what they want to do. It doesn't mean they are any better than anybody else. Again, this is a 3D way of looking at it. They are better than us. They're on a higher scale than us. We aim to be like them. We're inspired and wish to be like them. Would we? We would be bored to our core. We already are bored here, and we have all the variety of vibrations available. Now, is it true that we often choose the lower vibration when we have options? Yes, we already said this is what is mostly available here, but it doesn't mean these people are better than us. So again, to go back to Clea's meaning behind this question, which is, what is wrong with me? Why can't I hold on to this bliss state? You know, because she's also experienced, like many have, even without doing plant medicine, many have. We know you have states of pure love, states of compassion for all, states of oneness, states of isness. But here's the thing. We all experience everything, the whole gamut, because that's the whole point of not being in the 25th dimension. In the 25th dimension, we are in one state at all times. We just are. We come into the matrix to experience all of this, to play our song with all the notes available. Now, some people may get stuck on a couple of notes, and generally speaking, on this planet, maybe they're not the highest notes. They're laughing. They're not the most fun notes. They can be quite painful. In fact, they often are. But we all have experienced, if we think back, even the ones who have had a very uneventful life, or a life maybe full of pain, each one of us can relate. If you truly went through, we've been talking about doing life reviews, even in this lifetime, without even going to other lifetimes, we can go through and realize we've hit all the notes at one point, even if it was for a split second, because we are like a musical instrument. We can do anything. So again, the premise of this question is a premise of lack, of comparison, like saying, why can't I, or why can we hold on to these things? There's a reason. We want to support this reality. Who's going to support this reality? We want to be in this game. We are not less for wanting to be in this game. That is the entire purpose. Being in this game is the entire purpose of not being in the 25th, of creating this entire multiverse. So is it great these people are doing what they're doing? Of course it's great. It's great that everyone is playing their role and enjoying the game. In general, we are speaking. Of course, we already said this game, this particular game on planet Earth, has not been as enjoyable in the past many hundred years. But in general, we are in the matrix to enjoy the game. So perhaps in this lifetime, in this particular embodied incarnation, these people are exploring this particular experience, which is wonderful and perfectly acceptable. It does not mean this is what we all aspire to. Would we be able to do that? Absolutely. Each one of us is capable of doing or able to do anything. We are all one. If this person can do it, you can do it. I can do it, because there is no you, me, and this person. There's one. So again, we understand where this question comes from, but it presupposes assumptions and a way of judging that is completely 3D. Whereas in reality, it doesn't work that way. We are all equal. We like to talk about people like Siddhartha, even Jesus. We are all the same. And Jesus, for example, was the first to say that we are all the same. You are like me. He wasn't being humble. He was stating the truth. We are all one. We are all the same. Lorrayne, thank you. I've listened to everything that the 25th has said since Clea began to bring this information through. And I know that these concepts have been expressed previously. However, I think that this segment that you just shared with us, this information, is probably the single most profound, succinct, and clear explanation of the entire reason why we create these games. Thank you very much. I'm hoping that I can get Clea to send me an excerpt of this right away. Lorrayne, all right. Clea would like to know if Thomas Aquinas was considered one of the giants of theological thinking, was on the team of the light, and if he truly was having mystical experiences. Me. Yes, we do want to speak specifically to these, again, so-called giants of theological thoughts. Because when we think of them, we really are referring to religion now, which is a completely different segment of reality. We already said many times, religion was created by the dark in the form that we think of religion as an institution, as a system, as a punitive system that will punish you if you don't espouse or commit to these ideas. They're being imposed upon you. We know this is not how spirituality works. We know that the essence is always free. Now, the essence is always free to choose to go along or not, of course. But when you at a 3D level are threatened with, for example, burning at the stake or whatever the case might be, even an essence that is not interested in that experience, finding itself in certain situations might decide, you know, I prefer a different experience. And we say this, of course, while keeping in mind that the essence is always free to not participate in any of these systems. We said this many times, but we also said many of us do want to participate in these experiences because that's why we're here. That's why we're supporting them. So while the essence always has the option to call itself out, most of us have gone along with these things. Most of us may have been the inquisitors during the torturing. We always believe that we have not even participated physically in some of these things, but sometimes it has gone beyond just a supporting from an essence perspective. Sometimes we've done the actions ourselves. So why are we saying this? Because, of course, people like Thomas and many others that have been hailed as these thought giants, that have actually been pillars of not only theology, but Western thinking, for example, the many in the past, or what we believe of as being the past millennia or the past centuries in the Western world, these people were products. Just like these days, when you think of Mother Teresa, they are the product of a system that wants to uphold, that wants to create these concepts that we can look up to and we can use as guidelines. The point has always been with religion to control and manipulate people. We said this even from the very beginning with the Bible. We've said many times the Bible is a very distorted view of what Jesus stood for or what actually transpired. And we know this. We can see in how many ways it contradicts what we have been telling you, even though we've also said that there are light codes left in there that basically somehow slip through the filter of the dark. And this is always the case because, again, the essence always finds ways. We already said many people will awaken going through religious paths or reading the Bible. So the essence is free. It can use anything to achieve its purpose. If the purpose is to awaken, whatever awakening means to that particular essence, then it doesn't really matter where they are. They could be in the Mormon church, and we know they are very strict with their rules. That's why we're mentioning the Mormons, not because they are any worse than anybody else. But basically what we're trying to get to is that, yes, we have certain historical recounts of certain people, and we think this is the height achieved, again, a thought level, it should tell you something, or a mystical level even in history. But the truth is, again, these are just personages that we are focusing on and deciding, or that the dark is focused on, or that we as a collective decided to focus on and said, oh my goodness, this person moved Western thought forward with their philosophizing or with their ideas and so on. Of course, it's been one stepping stone after the other in this game. But we've also said, and they were laughing here, very clearly the game has become darker and darker and darker. So what we think of as a step forward is not necessarily a step forward in the sense of bringing us to a higher vibration or higher consciousness, which is not to say that Thomas was the one that pushed us backwards, and they were laughing here. But many of them, many of these people that, again, have been idolized as being a certain way, they're not. We've already seen this many times with public figures of this day. They're not always as advertised. Now, they've left us, you can imagine, they've left us lots of writings and written words where we can look at it and we can believe that it's legit. It's what it says. But again, within the system, within the matrix, within the accepted canons of the day. Absolutely. Because otherwise, you had to walk a very tight line when it came to religion. They didn't have the religious freedom that we have these days to say whatever we please. And so really, was it? We know them as being, or we think of them as being, these giants of Western thought. But really, when you look, if you were to actually look into the writings, you would realize they're walking a very fine line. They're not saying anything that we would consider earth-shattering or like we've never heard of before. Truly, they were the people that were used to structure the thought around certain concepts within religion. That's all. So, did they have mystical experiences? Some did. Some thought they did and they didn't. They might have just imagined this was happening because, again, this was their role. This is what their essence wanted to experience. Some of them were completely made up, like everything else in history. We talked about this many times. And mostly, unfortunately, this is the dark manipulating all these things because they've always been more interested in the side of the light in manipulating the thought of people here. This is how you gain power, is by getting people to believe in whatever you come up with. And there is no judgment. They're really good at playing this game. We could have done the same thing. We just decided this is not how we wanted to play, but this is what's happened. So it's not necessarily when you say, is this true or is this how it works? If you want to look at it from the 25th perspective, meaning from outside the matrix, no, this is not how it works. If you want to look at it from an accepted history perspective, how we see at a 3D level, how realities move forward, yes, absolutely. They've been complete bastions of Western thought. I have to tell you, I love this section of this session. This whole thing is just mind-boggling to me. It just gives so much insight into how we have created the reality here. And it seems so logical to us when we think of it. We're like, of course, it's A and then B and then C, that kind of thing. But really, none of it actually had to happen that way. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. And I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.